Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got another interview for you today, and I'm pretty excited about this one. I haven't done an interview in a while, but I've got a gentleman today that I really want you all to hear because I think he's just got some really valuable advice. He's got a real interesting career and just direction that he's going. And you know me, I don't really believe in coincidences, and it's pretty amazing how just around the time that I did that video on porn and masturbation, with some people found uncomfortable, but I think it's an important topic to address. That Doc Testosterone, who I'm about to turn you over to in a second here, has been producing that kind of content and really helping with this, and I think has a mission to we're aligned sort of in this same sort of mission. So I think it'd be real interesting to talk to Doc Testosterone for a little bit and see what he has to say. I think he's got a lot of valuable advice. I've been following a lot of his content, and it's really good. It's really the kind of stuff that I feel like we've got a serious alignment here. So anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce you to the Doc Testosterone himself with his full amazing beard. Why don't you give a little bit more background about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks again for having me here, man. Really appreciate it. I love the work you're doing because you're not just focusing on that career thing that a lot of guys do, but you're also making it holistic, thinking about health aspects. You're thinking about things that people do that may not have a computer science career. You're looking at the holistic, organic, natural ways to be better men. And improve our masculinity. So I love what you're doing. So thanks again for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And bearing with us on the second take here. My computer crashed, so we're doing this again.
Yeah, bro. All good. So my name is Farhan Khawaja. I'm a PhD in neuroscience. I started off in the computer science world. I got my degree in computer science engineering from Texas. So I was a programmer for many years. I worked for IBM, for Nortel. Did a lot of sleep-deprived nights coding, as a lot of you already know. Just my health was pretty shitty. I eating those potato chips and Pepsi and all that at night, and never exercising. I just didn't really care about health. I didn't care about fitness. I didn't care about anything that will improve my energy levels and my things that have to do with testosterone, basically. So,
right.
And then eventually I got my PhD. I switched from computer science to neuroscience. It was a computational degree, so I did a lot of programming during that too. And then eventually, when I graduated, I realized that my masculinity or my manliness was very bad. And the quantitative proof of that was when I got my testosterone checked, it was really low. It was that of an 82-year-old man.
Oh, there you go.
And that was this is a few years ago. So I decided, I graduated in 2013. I decided to get a 180 going, leave that academic aspect of life and focus more on the man aspect. So for example, getting my fitness back in order,
right.
Understanding health. I started reading medical textbooks about testosterone. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, Elliott Hulse included. He's a guy that both of us know very well, one very famous YouTube celebrity. So I started doing that, and then eventually, so there was a few things that I felt that I was lacking in the man department. So one was I did not have enough sexual experiences.
Right.
I was very socially anxious. I had just a lot of stress around people. It was just kind of isolated environment. I was in the lab. I was recording from monkeys, putting electrodes in their brain, recording from the visual system here. And I would do that for 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? My boss was a Harvard guy. So, I was his first student. We were starting the lab out. So it was very stressful. But you know what? I was happy. That's what's interesting, right? Because when you're getting validation, you're getting that dopamine spike, your brain doesn't really know the difference between watching porn or doing experiments and getting good grades, or doing just programming something, or going to a club and dancing with a girl, or like your brain doesn't know. What it knows is neurotransmitters are being released, right? It knows the chemical nature of what's going on inside the brain. That's all it knows. So I started realizing this. I mean, obviously I have the neuroscience degree, but I never put the 2 and 2 together. It was just, look, I did these experiments, and now I have my degree, and now I can be in academia and win the Nobel Prize one day, right? That's sort of my mindset.
Right.
But then one day I realized that the academic field was not going to get me my goals. It's not going to get me the experiences that I want in life, right? So then I took a little turn. I actually worked for a company that teaches guys how to do pickup, how to pick up women, how to go to bars and talk to women, because I had no idea how to do that, right? Like, I had never had a girlfriend before. I was very nerdy, geeky person. Got the best grades. I was top of my class. It was just, I was that guy who crushed the curve. Yeah. And then people hated me. I was that guy.
I'm sure no one can relate to you on this channel, that's watching. None of the programmers out there. No, you guys are all suave. You never had, this issue, right? So. Yeah.
And you know what? Look, man, it's, at the end of the day, it's about happiness. It's about just being peaceful inside, right? Look, externally, erections and libido and muscle mass, energy levels, all this stuff is related to being a man, and testosterone, obviously, which we'll get into a little bit later. But it's, at the end of the day, it's about, do you have peace?
Right.
When you wake up, do you feel groggy? Do you feel like this inner satisfaction, fulfillment? And I did not.
Right.
And that's basically why I said, forget all this stuff. I'm gonna go to Vegas. So I moved to Vegas a week after I did my dissertation. So
there you go. Yep.
Yeah, I did. So I did my oral defense.
Right.
It went really well. I didn't even sleep that night. I was so excited. They congratulated me, Dr. Farhan Khawaja, blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then 1 week later, because I was looking forward to going to Vegas and talking to girls, right? Like, that was like, I need to do this, because I had already kind of handled that academic thing, that intellectual pursuit in life, right? So it wasn't just academics, right? Like, if you think of religion or just spirituality and meditation and stuff, I had also handled that very well, right? So I was that kid in my, we call it a Jamaat kind of, it's like a mosque, for Muslims. It's like something where all the parents of our entire, 5,000 people in that prayer hall looked at me as that model kid.
Right.
They would tell their children, be like Farhan. Why aren't you more like Farhan? You know what I mean? So I was that kid, right? And I was so crazy about that stuff that I had memorized the entire prayer stuff. So, usually people read from this little thing, this laminated document, but I had just memorized everything, because I'd gone 7 days a week. I would go twice a day. I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, get there at 4 a.m. just to meditate. So I was like this crazy person who was, a programmer and a neuroscientist, but also very religious, right? I was very much into that thing. And by religious, I mean I was doing a lot of community service. I was visiting seniors in their nursing homes, all that stuff, right? And all that was good. It was providing me with that dopamine, that validation, that fulfillment, but it wasn't going to get me those experiences that I needed in life.
Right.
So you look at me now I just don't pray. I don't pray. I would say I'm still spiritual. I did my 20 minutes of meditation in the morning. I still do that. But in terms of actually going to a place physically, doing ceremonies and rituals, man, haven't done that in a long time. I can't even remember the last time I did that.
Right.
So, and you know what? Nothing bad or good. It's all about, right? It's all about. So the way I think of my life is buckets, right? There's buckets that we need to fill, right? There's the health bucket. There's the sex bucket. There is the family bucket. There's the intimacy bucket, because intimacy and sex don't always have to be the same, right? Then there is the money bucket, right? There's all these buckets. And for me, during my undergrad, my grad studies, the sex and the girls and the intimacy bucket was like really shitty, right? It was like 0 out of 10. And so, but the other guys were like 10 out of 10 or even overflowing, like 14 out of 10. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice some aspects of my life to get those other buckets, you know, start filling them up with some goodness. So that's what I did, man. I moved to Vegas a week after I graduated. I started working for this company, Real Social Dynamics. I was at this place called Las Vegas Immersion, where we would literally go out every day, 7 days a week, 7 nights a week. We would get filmed by instructors and coaches and all these assistants while we were talking to girls. We would have breakdown of that footage. And then, you know, the instructor would tell us that, no, you should do this, or you should have done this, or you did this the wrong way, this the right way. So we would break that down. We would have training every day.
Oh, wow.
Then
Yeah.
It was nuts. And then eventually I became proficient enough, because, you know, I was like, dude, I was just like a nerd even in that, right? It's like just all out in that. So I became proficient enough that they made me a coach.
Right, exactly.
Then they made me the director of that program. So I handled all the director. I was handling, you know, 46 students at one point from all over the world. So I would get guys from Norway and Australia and Slovakia and Mozambique, and basically they were what I used to be, right? They'd be like really afraid to talk to a girl, and it was a bunch of problems. You know, some of them had porn-induced erectile dysfunction, you know, PIED. So we could talk about porn in this video too. So then I became the director for them. And then I did that for a year. But then being director and doing all that stuff at the end of the day was still intellectual, right?
Right,
because
exactly.
I had to handle business. I had to make all the structure of the whole business, right? I had to handle the finances. So it was still intellectual. It was just from a business perspective. So I still didn't have that, hey, you know what? I'm just free. And I'm just gonna go pimp it all the time. I didn't have that, unfortunately. And that took a toll on my health.
Yeah. It's still in your comfort zone, right? It's still, you're in your head at that point, not down here, you know? So yeah, so it's like you can achieve these things, but still be from intellectual. You're relying on the thing that you have the mastery of already.
Absolutely, man. And it's this left brain, right brain thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not exactly like, you know, how people say there's like two brains. Right. Of course, they're communicating, they're related, but I tend to be, from a traditional perspective, very left brain, right? I'm very scientist by training, very analytical. I, you know, try to break down, deconstruct everything that happens in my life, right? I think about it, and that might not be healthy all the time. So once Vegas happened, I took a toll on my health again, right? We were sleeping around 7 a.m. every day. It was not according to circadian rhythm. Exercise was just like almost zero. So it was not that I was working on my health. I was working on my girl skills, my sex stuff, right? Like my sexual energy, I was trying to build that up. So then when I thought, you know what, this bucket is like getting there, you know, it's not even, you know, nearly full, but it's getting there. So I said, you know what, in order for me to actually get there, I have to improve my health, right? I have to, and it's not just my health, right? Because look, my grad school loan is like huge, right? I mean, this is like 10 years, like 3 years of master's, 7 years of PhD. There's a lot of money I spent, you know, from the loan that the government gave me. So now I was like, you know what? I'm here pimping and stuff, but I still gotta get shit done. I have to make money. I have to like make real money. I have to provide real value to the world. I have to provide real benefit. Right there, I'm providing benefit, but it's not something that I can scale. It's not something that's related to my degree, right? So I said, you know what? That's great. I'm gonna go learn about business. I'm gonna go learn about entrepreneurship. So after that, this is a long intro, by the way.
This is great. No, I mean, because this is a path, right? I think, you know, that it's important for people to see that the path is not always straight. I think that's and you highlight that excellently. So go on.
Yeah, because the benefit here for you who's listening, the benefit is try to understand that if you really want something, you're going to have to make some crazy sacrifices.
Yep.
And what's interesting is that now that I look back and I just the retrospect, and I think I get shocked about what I did, right? I'm like shocked out of my mind, because I was like, look, 3 years ago, I was here, I was like in a room in Montreal, and there was a monkey sitting next to me in a box, and he was like looking at an LED on the computer monitor, and I had an electrode, actually I had sometimes 3 electrodes stuck in his brain in 3 different areas. It was like this sophisticated apparatus that I built myself from scratch. Right? I was injecting chemicals, trying to shut off different parts of his brain. Like, holy cow, I was doing that 3 years ago, right? And now I'm in Miami here now, and Doc Testosterone and the YouTube and so on. So, exactly. Right? So then I went to Silicon Valley. So I spent.
Hold on 1 second. I actually want to break it apart, make a comment on a couple of things you said before I forget so far in your journey too. One of them, just as a commentary, as a good indicator, and I'm curious if you agree with me, is that when you go into a pursuit like you did, because you spent so much time in academia, you pursued this PhD, and then immediately after you got this PhD, what did you do? You didn't go and get a job like you're supposed to do. You went a totally different direction. And sometimes when that kind of shit happens in life, when you're pursuing something so damn hard, and then all of a sudden you feel this urge, you got to go another direction, that's a good indicator that you need to do it, right? It's one of those moments that you have in life that you're like, okay, there's some, I don't know, whatever you believe in, some outside forces guiding me and pointing me in the right direction that I need to go. So I wanted to make a point on that. And then the other thing I want to say about the buckets, because I really like that idea, because that's that focus on holistic. Like if you're missing stuff from buckets, like if you have a car that has one wheel is fallen off, that car is going to crash. And I think a lot of people don't get that. So I really appreciate both of those. Both of those examples just in your story that I think a lot of people could benefit from.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I totally agree, man. So the one X factor that I think about is pain, right? Pain, this need, this drive to do something. And don't think of your life as I need to do this thing, because I know a lot of guys, I follow them, Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, even investors like Chris Sacca. These guys, I read a lot about these guys and their biography and all the books they've written. And one thing, and Tim Ferriss obviously too, and one thing that a lot of them talk about is focus on your strengths, focus on your strengths, focus on your strengths. Now, the caveat that they miss is that you can only focus on your strength if your weaknesses are at a threshold.
Yes, precisely. And what's really interesting about that as well is sometimes your weaknesses have more potential to become your greatest strengths because you don't take them for granted and you actually have to work on them. Whereas the things that you naturally have strengths in, and a lot of people don't get this as well, is you take them for granted and you never develop the work ethic and the character that it takes to build those things. So everything that used to be my greatest weakness in life is now my greatest strength. And it's because of that reason. And I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing more of what you just said and that, rather than focus on your strength. That's obvious advice to me.
Yeah, because and what I'm saying here, we've provided a lot of benefit to guys, right? Over the last 3 years, I'm getting 250 snaps a day now.
Right.
Specifically about porn addiction. Hey, I'm not jerking off anymore. It's been 7 days, but I need to relapse. Or I'm feeling like I'm gonna relapse. What should I do? What is this tip? So it's like there are so many guys who need to recover and overcome this pain. But some of them, actually most of them, the pain is not enough. That's all, right? I would say, look, I'm fortunate, man. I'm just fortunate, right? For me, the pain was so much that I was like, yeah, okay, I have a PhD, so what? Right? Okay, it's great. I graduated from a great university, whatever. When I used to go to conferences, everyone used to know me, right? So when I left academia, they thought I was crazy. They're like, wait, you're going to Vegas? You're famous in this field. People know you. I was getting offers to do my postdoc at places like Harvard, right? And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter, because that is not gonna get me what I want in life.
Right.
Right? So that pain has to be there. And look, a lot of, even like if you're listening here and you already have those buckets handled, right? You've already crossed that threshold, then it's cool. Like you don't have to do crazy stuff. You don't have to like go extreme. For me personally, and for all the guys that I've taught in the past, they have that pain, we had doctors who just physicians, like there's one cardiologist from South Carolina. He would work in South Carolina for 1 week, then he would fly to Vegas for 3 weeks and just pimp every day with us. Yeah. Right? And this guy's making like $500,000 a year, and he's not getting laid. I mean, right? Like, it's not about the money. It's not about just the money or the or how the power you have or you some kind of career that you achieve. That's not gonna get it, right? You have to have a holistic. Everything has to be handled. Like if it's an equation, you think of different parameters, right? There's all these free parameters in your equation, and each of them has to have a certain weight for you to get that result, right? And so for me, that was the first step, right? The girls part of it. And then I was like, look, I need to make money, right? Because the hottest girls, I'm not really gonna get just because I have a good game, or just like my personality is really amazing, or I can like spit out some stupid line. It's not about that, right? Because in order for you to get a high quality girl, you need to have a certain, your finances really handled. Status, exactly, right? And money and having that income is a big part of that. So I was like, you know what? Look, grad school did not teach me business. I'm gonna go learn about business, right? So then I went to Silicon Valley. I spent a lot of time in tech. I spent a lot of time talking to VCs. It was so funny. What I would do is I had all these friends from grad school who were working for consulting companies like BCG, McKinsey, Bain. So what I would do is I would take a bus, right? This is another one of those sacrifice craziness. I would take a bus to different cities, and I would spend the weekend doing cases with them, like just business cases. So we would knock out like 100 cases in a span of 1 weekend. Right? And my kind of like, what am I going to give to them? The benefit I would give them is I said, you could pick whatever restaurants you want to eat at. I got you. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
They're getting like $1,000 an hour here, right? So I mean, they're doing me a favor, because I'm their friend, and they understand, how good I was in academia. So they understand that I will succeed in future things. So there was that return. So I went to like maybe 5-6 different cities, like Toronto, Chicago, Tampa. Anyway, I went to a few cities, and then what I would do is I would go there in the bus. Some bus rides were 24 hours, whatever. I would do that. I would do the cases, and then I'd come back. So I was working on my business training when I was in Silicon Valley. So I would talk to VCs. I did the tech thing, and then I became pretty good at it, right? So and during that time, I started my company, Doc Testosterone, because what I realized is the one thing that I can contribute to the world because of my pain, because of my experiences, is this journey to becoming the ultimate man, or the man of your prime, or whatever you want to call it, right? The word, I don't like to use the word alpha, because that's like, I don't know, the connotations kind of become whack now.
Exactly.
But, right, but like become the man that the strongest version of yourself, like Elliott says, right? Or like Oprah says, the best version of yourself, whatever. So then I said, okay, I got this handled. So now, in order for me to get my health, fitness handled, to learn how to deadlift and squat and so on, I need to go to the guy who's the best in the world, and that's Elliott Hulse. Right. So then my previous boss, who's his name is Owen Cook, RSD Tyler is his nickname on the internet. He is a very good friend of Elliott Hulse. So then he called Elliott and said, Farhan's coming to you. And he's a great person, take him. So then Elliott welcomed me with open arms. I became his director as well. Yep. And there at Strength Camp, I spent 8 months. I doubled all of my lifts. I mean, it was amazing, man. Like just all the compound movements. I worked out 6 times a week. I had a neurosomatic therapist. He's also on my channel. Sir Symmetry is his name. He worked on me twice a week. I had like pain all over my body, man. And see, now it wasn't like this kind of pain, right? Because this kind of pain is when you're programming and you're like, oh, what should I do here? What algorithm should I use? What data structure? And you get complicated with that, and you try to figure out this code. I was doing that with my body.
Exactly.
Right? I was feeling like this. There was sometimes I would do a deadlift, and just like I would be at the top, and just that oxygen deprivation for those milliseconds were like, holy cow, crazy painful, right? So there is when I kind of developed my Doc Testosterone plan, which is like my fitness plan, and just like all the videos and the books and stuff. That's where I wrote everything, and that that experience at Strength Camp helped me become what I am today. Here in Miami, and recently we've been doing a lot of porn addiction stuff, because we kind of go where the clients want, right? So clients have a demand, they have a need. We try to provide that benefit, because I could do it. I could focus on how to grow muscle, how to get better erections, and have higher libido and energy levels. But then now guys are like, no, we can't do that because we're jerking off 6 times a day. Right.
We've got this crutch. Got to get rid of the crutch first before. There's no point trying to run when you're still using crutches. Got to get rid of the crutches, then you can run. Then you can train. Yeah. Perfect example.
It's that bucket thing, right? So if you look at the man bucket, you got all these things, but then inside of the testosterone bucket, you got other things, right? So it's not just about like, male characteristics like the beard or the hair or whatever. It's more, what are you stuck at, which is not allowing you to get to where you need to be.
Exactly.
So that's why, right? So recently we've been doing a lot of porn addiction. I actually work here in a addiction rehab clinic here in Miami. So, I'm access to a lot of therapists, guys who like been doing this for decades, very certified. So right now we're trying to develop certain guidelines and policies that we can actually take to the government, because look, the government doesn't recognize porn addiction as a real thing. Right. Obviously, right? Porn industry is over $100 billion. Right. The Bang Bros headquarters are here in Miami, right here, right? Like,
yeah.
Right. And then other porn companies here. Pornhub is here. And so the point is, I'm trying to collaborate with clinics. I'm also collaborating with the University of Miami. We haven't nothing official yet, but we're looking at that, because what we want to do is be the world leader in overcoming porn addiction and devise specific guidelines on how to do that. Yes. Right? Because you can boost testosterone, right? Naturally, diet, exercise, sleep, and getting rid of toxins and all that. But this other aspect of addiction is always going to be there. And it's huge, right? Because that's going to affect everything, man. It's breaking up families. This one guy recently, he's addicted to, I don't know how graphic you want me to get, but he's addicted to something known as rosebudding. There's these girls who stick some object in their ass overnight, and then during the porn session during the day in the morning, their rectum falls out. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, look, I've been watching that, and there's like a foursome going on. So like the rectum will fall out, and then they'll put like honey on it and like lick it and right.
But you progress there, right? That people don't realize that you have to. You will progress down the path, just like people eventually. People die when they're addicted to heroin. Eventually, that's their end. It will happen because you cannot just have a sustenance level. That level increases of any kind of addiction, right? That's
totally agree, man. And it's the suicidal nature is there. It's not that there's only suicides with heroin and meth. No, there are suicides with porn addiction. It just doesn't come out because it's for one reason. It's also it co-occurs, right? Because if someone has an addictive personality, as they say, which I don't even know what that means, but some person might be predisposed to having a certain threshold of dopamine in his brain. Okay, that's definitely possible, right? Or other hormones, oxytocin, even testosterone, obviously, we know that. But that is sort of, the porn addiction is co-occurring with heroin and meth and alcohol. So what they do is they say, oh, he died or he committed suicide because of an alcohol abuse or alcohol addiction. We don't really know, right? So that's what's going on. And yeah, man, right now we're full on, man, full on. Like just
that's awesome.
Addiction, all in. Right over the next 2-3 weeks, I interviewed some celebrities like in fitness and dating and stuff. So I'm gonna bring that in the next 2 weeks, taking a little break, but then again full on with this stuff, man. Collaborating with like policymakers and academics and yeah, and you know what, I feel like in this whole world, it just seems to me, I'm very confident that I'm the guy to do this.
Yes.
Right? Because I got the neuroscience, the fitness, the testosterone stuff, and it's just something people need. And you know what's interesting? There's gonna be guys in the world that are gonna know more than me, right? Because they've been studying the addiction field for the last 30 years. But what they don't have is the ability to actually educate the public in the real world.
Yep.
They don't have any clue, right? Because they're talking to academics who already know this stuff.
Right.
They're not talking to the 15-year-old or the 8-year-old who's addicted to porn today, right? So that's one aspect. The second aspect is they're not good at the social aspect of how things are happening, right? Like they're not on Snapchat, they're not on YouTube. So it's very hard for them to actually get that pop culture, actually get it into those kids' heads, because those kids are on Snapchat. The kid is not coming to the Society for Neuroscience conference, let's just say. Right?
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of like I just got lucky, man. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be in this position, and man, I'm going all in, working day and night on this stuff, and taking care of my health too.
Awesome. You know, I think what's really important too is what, you know, one thing that you provide as well, which I found so beneficial, and of course, you know, I try to do as well, is this idea that it's the mindset too. It's like, because, and I think you mentioned this in your story too, it's not what you do, it's who you become. And when that focus shifts, when you're, you know, if you're just trying to break an addiction, porn addiction, you're like, oh, this is bad, it's ruining my marriage, or fine, you know, it's slap on the wrist type of like, I got to do this because it, like, I want to stop smoking because it's killing me. Okay, that's a very bad motivator. Like, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you can apply the, you know, but if it's like, hey, I want to be the best version of myself possible. It's about who I'm going to become. It's like, I'm breaking this addiction because I want to be a better man, because a better man is who I'm called to be. This is my mission in life. I can do this. That's a higher purpose. It's a higher calling. And I think a lot of people, you know, from the very analytical side, they don't have that heart that you have, and that heart for people, and that higher calling. When you call people to a higher purpose and you say, you got to change, not because it's killing you, not because it's harmful to the environment or because it's harmful to the world or it'll make you more money, but you got to change because you are not living up to your potential. You need to become this thing, and you feel it in your heart. You know what you're supposed to be, and it's calling to you, and this is why you're going to do this. That's such a more powerful motivator. That was what makes people change deeply. And I mean, that's, for me, that was the thing that changed. You know, I mean, I like with my porn addiction, it was an instant. As soon as I realized that, as soon as I conceptualized in my mind, I was like, wow. And it was cold turkey, and it was done. I mean, it's not necessarily that everyone's going to fall down that same step, but I think that if you don't have that mindset, then all of these analytical approaches don't make much sense, because they don't impact, they don't hit you. You know, they may hit you here, but they don't hit you here where it really matters, where you really care. Yeah, man, totally agree. And you know, just one thing I would add to that is this concept of contribution. Yes. Right? Because look, honestly, if it was up to me, I would just be traveling the world, right? Going to Colombia and Kiev and Stockholm and just like partying all the time. Like, honestly, this is what I want to do. I just want to travel and party, right? And you know what? I would be very happy with that, because I would be able to explore more of my sexuality. I would be more in my body. I would meditate more. I would be with nature. That's actually what I want to do. But the thing that is keeping me from that is contribution. I feel that I have a responsibility to all of these guys who don't have anybody else. Exactly.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
and obviously they do have other people. It's just I'm in some really lucky, some stars lining up position to do this because I just have the background and I understand this field really well, and I have been through it. That's the other thing. I've been through it, right? I mean, I didn't start when I was 8, but you know, it was early, and it was years and years, you know, almost a decade of addiction. So it's because I understand them, I resonate with them, and I can solve it because I solved it myself.
Exactly.
That contribution, that responsibility is just saying, you know what, you can't just party and travel. But I will one day. I will one day.
Yeah, when you're done. Yeah, exactly. No, I totally can relate. I mean, it's kind of like, why am I doing this channel and doing the simple programmer stuff? I mean, I made my millions, and I sort of, you know, I retired for like 2 months, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, I have a bigger purpose and mission, and contribution is such a big part of your life. I think a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I got to get my thing, I got to get my girl, got to get my money, got to get my whatever it is, and they don't realize that it's not going to be. You're going to achieve that. That's fine. Yeah, you know, if you read the right books, if you put your, you know, do the right things, you'll get all that stuff. But you'll, again, going back to what you said earlier, you'll have achievement without fulfillment, and achievement without fulfillment is that's where suicide. That's where you're like, wow, gosh, I guess life is really meaningless. But that contribution is that piece, I think, that is so critical. And any path that you're on, I think, that doesn't involve contribution is one that's not going to be fulfilling. So yeah, I'm in total agreement with you on that.
Totally, man. And you know, it's not easy. It's not easy to learn that, because I'll give you my example. When I was in the academic field, look, I actually made a video. Scientists and professors are fucking assholes. Like, that's a video, right? It's like,
nice.
So and they are. And the reason is because in academia, there's not a notion of, oh, how can I use my research to help people?
Right.
How can I use my research to actually make people happy day to day? It's not that. It's how can I publish so I can maybe win the Nobel Prize one day. So when I go into a conference, you know, with my suit on, people can pat me on the back and give me jobs and ask to collaborate with me. I mean, man, it's all validation. It's all it's just like they just want that dopamine spike. They want those receptors to get the dopamine, and it's like in any shape or form, they're gonna do it. And it's the same way. It's the same. So I'm glad I got out of there. And of course, look, I respect the field very much, and that's why I'm collaborating with physicians and scientists and so on. Because look, man, it's always a holistic effort. You know, like I'm teaming up with you here, right? We're collaborating. So it's that we, in order to achieve any goal, we have to have weirdos from all different fields coming in, and like just like weird backgrounds, like you know, like mind-boggling training, and we come together and boom, we actually make something happen, make change happen. So.
Yeah. It's so true. It's I totally agree with you. Yeah, especially in, you know, I mean, and we have the same problem in computer science, right? In programmers, that as academia is this focus on, again, on what you can accomplish, you know, and it's a false sense of ego, right? It's just like, I mean, you know, I could even say like probably, and you know, tell me if I'm wrong here, but even when you had the mental aspect, when you went to Vegas and you're picking up girls with pickup lines, or you know, you're using like tactics. It's equivalent to someone, a programmer, or someone in the academia that has accomplished some goal. You know, maybe if they get the Nobel Prize, or you know, they get whatever, but they don't feel it. It's a false confidence. It's seeking external validation still. It's all external validation. It's like, I have to do these things so that other people will tell me I'm great. But when you're following the thing that when you're trying to become a better person, when you're trying to become the better version of yourself, it's internal validation. You now know you don't have, it doesn't matter if anyone acknowledges you when you wake up in the morning and says that you're an awesome person or you did a good job, because you feel it. And you know, and that key difference, I think, is what a lot of people never ever see or get in their life. And once you experience that, you've got to share that with the rest of the world.
Dude, totally agree. And one thing that, thinking about all the stuff you said about, I mean, the better, you can become a better person, contribution and stuff like that, but you have to be very careful not to let external gadgets.
Yeah.
Fulfill things, right? So like simple example for me, right? So there was a time when I would read my Facebook news feed a lot, right? I would be like, or check my email a lot all the time and reply to emails, my Snapchat friend requests, my Instagram likes. I was addicted to that stuff like crazy, right? And I realized that these tech companies, like they're neuroscientists, like they know what the hell is going on, right? So when you get that little heart in Instagram or this many comments, you get the dopamine you need. You get the craving, you fulfill that craving, you're exploring, you're getting the validation. Now, what I started doing recently, I'm gonna make a video about this probably next week. How to focus on what you really wanna do in terms of contribution and fulfillment,
right?
But at the same time, stay away from everything that gives you that false hope that you just talked about.
Yep.
Huge, man. I mean, it's changing my life. This is changing my life. I swear to God. It's like Seth Godin, right? When Seth Godin got asked, why aren't you on Twitter? He's like, look, I could be on Twitter. I could be in the top 10 on Twitter, but then I can't write my blog. Then I can't read. Then I can't write the 18 New York Times bestsellers because now I'm tweeting like 1,000 times a day.
Exactly.
So for him, it was like, look, if let's say you get writer's block. I mean, a lot of programmers will sympathize with this too. If you have a writer's block, I mean, a programmer's writing code. So if you have writer's block, you're kind of stuck. What Seth always says is, get bored. Don't do anything. Like if you're sitting there, you're like, oh, I don't know what to type next. Don't go on your Facebook and get that validation. Just sit there and do nothing. Because that thing is tricking you. That social media, that internet, that video game, that potato chip, that sugar, like whatever addiction you have, it's tricking you to get this fulfillment. That's not real fulfillment. That's fake.
Yep.
So stay away from it. Just like train yourself, just like slap yourself, do something, and like train yourself to not do that so you can contribute and do what you really want.
Exactly. It's funny too, one thing I think a lot of people don't realize with the Facebook feeds too is like, especially with all the political stuff that we have in there now, it's like if you go in the morning and you go to Facebook first and you spend 30 minutes reading through your Facebook feed and you see all this emotional stuff you're like, I'm for gun control, I'm against gun control, something is going to light you up. Gay, not gay, whatever it is, Trump, Hillary, one of those things is going to light you up and you're going to be pissed off, right? Even if you don't respond in the comment, you expend a huge amount of emotional energy to process this stuff. Then you go down and you sit down to do your work. Now now it's like you've been working for 3 hours already really hard because you've just expended that energy, but you've produced nothing for it. You've not contributed to the world. You've not contributed to yourself. You've harmed your mental health and your emotional stability. And now you're tired, you're exhausted. So it's really interesting. I've definitely discovered it myself is like, I'd be curious. I'll have to show you. I've got a system where I schedule my week and I basically like work on the big rocks first, like the deep work stuff, and I start there and I don't let all that get the thing done. Like just before we did this interview, you asked me what I was doing and I was like, oh, I just finished doing 2 Pomodori for writing my book. And it's like, because that's the you got to get that stuff done, otherwise all that other stuff is like it gives you no benefit, but it drains you just as much as if you just did a whole bunch of hard work or deep work.
Absolutely, man. Like basically, you mentioned what's in the one thing, that book by Gary Keller, right?
Great book.
The first thing you do is supposed to be your one thing. For the first, I think he said like first 3-4 hours of the day, focus on your one thing because that will make everything else easier or irrelevant.
Exactly.
Right? So if you're actually writing your code, you're getting that fulfillment, or you're contributing to someone, you're helping someone. Now you already have the fulfillment, so you don't need Facebook. You don't need to check your Instagram likes or whatever, Snapchat followers. You don't care. Now you could check it, but it's not that you need to check it. You might check it because that's going to allow you to contribute even more or fulfill even more, but from a deeper sense of view. And you know what? This is going to be different for everyone.
Oh yeah.
I'm just telling you my perspective. For you listening, it could be you might not even have Snapchat, so it's irrelevant to you, but it's whatever is in your life that you are doing that gets your fulfillment in a fake way.
Exactly.
Just 1 week, try to not do that. Just 1 week and see, it's going to change your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'd be I think I'd talk to you about, but I think you'd like some of Tony Robbins' stuff too, because he talks about the basic human needs, and he talks about how you can have sort of not, you know, secondary ways of fulfilling them, of achieving these things that just are like sustenance. It gets you by, you can survive, but it's not a higher level. And it's like a lot of the things that you're talking about, you know, reaching the higher level. It's like even the same thing, you know, bringing it back to even to the porn thing, right? Porn, yeah, okay, you're beating a basic human need, right? You're meeting the need barely at the minimum level that you could meet it at. Whereas if you stop meeting it at that level and you start to feel the pain, like you said before, then it will cause you to meet it at the higher level, which will actually bring you a better fulfillment and actually make you feel good about yourself, as opposed to feeling shitty all the time because you're just barely getting by with, you know, it's like scraping by the bottom of the barrel type of. So many people are fulfilling their needs with that bottom of the barrel type of need fulfilling, and that's the same thing with likes on Facebook. And you know, it's all those things are just, that's not real communication. It's not real depth. It's not real fulfillment. It's just what you need to just survive as a human being. But you want more than that in your life. You don't want just the basic level.
No, I totally agree, man. And you know what? Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but the basic need of a human being, right? Like if you think of caveman, what is the basic need of a caveman? In today's society, a lot of gadgets and entities are there to fulfill those needs, porn included. Right. Now, if we think 20 years from now when VR is at scale and it's like commercial, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I'm kind of scared, man. Like, I mean, it's inevitable, you know, it's fine, the singularity and so on. It's just, if they design a VR headset, body set, where your brain is like 98% sure that you are having sex with a girl and you're getting the touch and the bonding because of the oxytocin, you know, there's oxytocin release, and you're feeling that because you're wearing a bodysuit. You might even have like, so what I'm thinking is, with technology, with computer science, are we gonna be at a level where we won't have real sex anymore? And if so, is that okay?
I don't know. That's, you know, was it Total Recall? Was that, they had that, right? I tend to think it's really interesting, these questions of singularity and this whole, you know, VR and the way we're going. I think we're going to find that, I mean, this will answer the question, right? Are we more than just a ghost in the machine, right? Is there something that we don't see? Is there something? I tend to think so. I tend to think that, I mean, in my own life, you know, I mentioned this several times, that I feel like at some point the universe tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, John, time to wake up, buddy." And all of a sudden I went from this analytical, super, you know, skeptical person to a person who is, a lot of people say, is woo-woo out there, you know, believing all this crazy stuff, which is a total flip for me. But I believe that there's, you know, I think that we're going to find the answer to that question pretty soon, because I think there's more to humanity than the atoms that make us up. And I think there is, you know, certainly something that we are never going to be able to replicate in the physical world. But, you know, I could be wrong, but you know, I have a strong inclination towards that. Yeah.
And I hope you're right, because I remember my senior year in undergrad, that AI class that made me switch from computer science to neuroscience. Diane Cook, she was my honors thesis supervisor. She asked us, raise your hand. This is like 300 people in the class, right? AI 1. It's like, raise your hand if you think that we will never get to a state where a machine would replicate a human brain. And there was 2 people that raised their hand. It was me and my Russian friend, Andre.
Yeah.
We were it in the whole class, and
wow.
we were like, us? Like what? You know what I mean? So people have that thought. I mean, look, man, I'm a, I don't know, purist or like what, I don't know what you would call it, but it's like I really do believe that human beings are, you know, special or whatever, or even because of, even through evolution, even through all the steps we've gone through in evolution, even through that, I just feel, you know, I mean, look, man, I've worked with monkeys, I've worked with other animals, rats, I've dissected their brains, I've looked inside, I've stained their neurons, I've done all that stuff. So I know that the brains look similar, and you know, I've worked with these monkeys for 7 years, so I know that. But I also know humans. I've also worked with humans, you know, day to day. So I feel that yes, there is something that can't be replicated, but like, you know, even Elon Musk had that video game comment recently about, you know, he thinks we're in a video game, right?
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So he has this entire thing where he talks about the probability of us being part of an advanced civilization is like 1. It's very, very close to 1, right? Like 100%. Anyway, it's very interesting Elon Musk stuff. And then anyway, and then Zuck's, you know, Zuck's talks about his ocular rift thing, where he says like 97% we would, you know, our brains would think that it's real. So I mean, I don't know, man. Next 20 years, we're lucky to be here. That's what I would say. We're lucky.
It's funny too, because some of these paths actually, although they seem contradictory, they lead to the same, like they can point to the same direction. Because I mean, you've got the whole Zen path of that, like we're all one with the universe, and the universe is all one, and God is one. We're all God. You know, we're all. It's just one thing, right? But then you've got like you said, Elon Musk saying, "Oh, we're a simulation inside of a game of an advanced intelligence." But when you play that out, like when you really think about what both of those concepts say, they both say the same thing. Because if you are you know, because it's a consciousness expressing itself through evolution, through development, through humanity in both cases, and whether that consciousness is you know, a single identifiable entity, or biological, or machine, or spread out distributed system, it doesn't really matter. It's still the same concept, which is it's just crazy how, like, you know, so many of those things that, you know, I've discovered this too, just reading through, you know, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I've read a lot of, you know, Zen texts and Stoic philosophy, and even a lot of, you know, philosophers. A lot of the same, well, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, the transcendentalist, right? They're all saying the same thing at the very core level, which is so bizarre. Like even Sufi, you know, like, you know, when you go into mysticism, Gnosticism, all the same exact thing. And so it's sort of hard to deny that at this point, but it's interesting. I think most people never ever find that kind of connection in depth. I hope more people do. Maybe that's, you know, one of my missions is to reach that. But it's funny how, you know, I feel like whatever direction we go, it's going to be it doesn't matter, because it's all the same.
I love that, man. I came across the concept of monorealism, and that's basically what you said. Monorealism, right? It's like monotheism is there's God, and then there's not God. But then monorealism is it's all God. It's all energy. It's all something, and it's all holistic. It's all this one genuine, pure power. And that's what you're saying, dude. I totally with you. I believe that.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are so opposed, but you know, okay. For those of you listening, you know, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. Just consider, you know, research. You know, look in the text. But cool. Well, you know, I think we should probably wrap this up. going for an over an hour. But I knew this would be an interesting conversation. you know, so definitely welcome you back anytime. Glad to have, you know, these conversations. I think a lot of my audience can benefit from your thinking and your experience. I want to give you a chance to first of all of you listening, definitely go and check out Doc Testosterone's YouTube channel and subscribe and watch his stuff, especially if you are battling, like if you like that video that I did on the porn addiction stuff, like he's really going to help you to do that, because that's what he's focusing on. And you know, and it's really important, like get this solved, you know, get this problem solved, because it is a problem and so many people won't acknowledge it as a problem. I'm so glad that you're shining a light on this dark area. And it's not, it's embarrassing for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be. We should just be able to talk about this frankly, because you know, that's it. Realism, honesty is where change happens. So definitely subscribe to him, and I'll turn it over to you. I think you've got a book that they can for testosterone. Maybe you can tell them where they can get that, a free guide that I think will be helpful to them as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, so the YouTube channel is there in the video. So there are a lot of different types of videos. There's very specific testosterone related videos. I also have videos about just self-development, how to, you know, inspiration, motivation type stuff. There's fitness stuff. And then obviously there's the porn stuff, all the porn addiction stuff. I also have an entire series about marijuana addiction. So if you want to look at that, there's an entire documentary about that too. In the videos, as you watch them, you'll get links and things like that. One of the links you'll get is to my free ebook. It's just doctestosterone.com. And that is known as the 5 factors killing your testosterone and how to fix them today. That's the first book I ever wrote. Right now it's the 3rd edition. And yeah, that's just gonna teach you something right away. You can do that, you know, just take action and boost your testosterone. And the goal of the whole channel is how to do things naturally, right? So I don't really get into you know, synthetic stuff too much, although I do have one video about, or actually 2 videos about you know, taking testosterone injections and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of value there. We're almost reaching our 1-year anniversary, so we're gonna have an anniversary special. So once you subscribe, you'll get all that information.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I really appreciate your time, and you know, awesome conversation. I knew as soon as I started watching your stuff, I was like, I found a kindred spirit here. So glad to talk to you, and I hope that everyone benefits from this conversation. And give, you know, thumbs up, leave some comments below if you'd like to hear more and do more of these interviews. I think definitely I'd be interested in continuing conversation, or a specific topic that you want to hear about. So, all right.
Yeah, and hey, thanks again, man. John, really appreciate you inviting me here. Your guys are great. You know, your videos are great. You're providing great value. You're contributing. You know, we're on the same page. We're in the same tribe. You know, we're trying to contribute and provide as much benefit as possible. So very happy, man. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Take care.